start is actually quite difficult and quite easy. I have, since we met last, since I was in America, became more and more aware that there is a difference between the path itself and the knowledge or the wisdom. So when you start to on a path into the spiritual world, you will be given information that is necessary for this path. It is almost like a road trip. You get a map, but the most important is that there are signs along the road where it is next right to Highway 42, you know, and Chicago to the left, and all this. And it has also, as now, several others have been able to walk this path, which I call the Northern Path of Initiation, that the knowledge that is given is individual. It actually what you need. If you come from, let's say, Alaska to Chicago, the signs will be different, and the names will be different, and the road numbers will be different, as if you come from Florida. And they relate actually to this information that you are given, relate to what you need to do, what you need to refine, what you need to change, what you need to practice in your life, and so on, to be able to continue on this path, this road. And what you are given is then characterized as knowledge. One of the first things or knowledge that that I got on this path of the Nordic initiation path was that the usually walked path, which I had been training for several years, the so-called Michaelic or the 19 lessons path, was not really functioning as a path. It was functioning as a knowledge which was not individualized but generalized. I was very reluctant or careful to sort of or say this, and I discussed this with a friend, the former leader of the Finnish Finnish Anthroposophic Society. I've been discussing with a colleague today, a veterinarian. So he said, well, that is exactly what Rudolf Steiner said in 25, that when he gave this sort of Michael path, it was at that time when he gave it both a path and a knowledge. But as nobody seemed to be able to walk that path, use it as a path, it was, according to Rudolf Steiner, more or less closed. And he said, the mysteries will be closed until I come back. And he was, yeah, you might say frustrated. He talked with several friends about his frustration that his followers or friends was not able to walk the path itself. And in a book that has recently been published, it's called the Leidenweg Rudolf Steiner. That means the path of suffering of Rudolf Steiner. All these, what he said to several friends is related there. So then this path is not easy to walk. And at Rudolf Steiner's time, the path, so-called Nordic path, through the elemental realms were not open either. So, in a way, it was no usable, not easily usable path at that time for the rest of the 1900s. So then when this path through the elemental realms slowly opened more and more, and in 2019 fully open, it was possible to walk this path. And as I have been training also this path for many, many years, then it was suddenly quite easy for me to walk this path. And I have been writing 3 books about how to walk this path, the Nordic path through the elemental realms, and meeting the guardian of the threshold, actually several guardians of the threshold, that give you the information that you need. And I thought in the beginning that that was a generalized information, but as I said earlier, this is actually quite individualized. It is what you need to continue. And you will, for this path that we will now try to describe and walk with all who look on, you are meeting several sort of guardians, or not really guardians. There are guardians, but a combination with helpers giving you the information that you need to go on. The last guardian, I will just mention this because that was an example how this can develop. So I was at a certain stage, that was after I was in America, given the possibility of walking 2 directions, and one, Vidar, which is the greatest guardian or the advisor on the threshold, he said that now you can choose between the mysteries of the spirit or the mysteries of the earth. So then I chose the mysteries of the earth, or sort of the feminine mysteries. And at a certain area, which actually was the 7th layer of the earth, a huge guardian appeared, a mighty being, which I had never heard of or met before. And that was a woman, and she said, "I'm the 3rd." And I didn't know what she meant, the 3rd. So it took me 2 days, and then I suddenly realized that it was Anna the 3rd. So I asked, "Are you Anna the 3rd?" And she said, "Yes." And she is one of the really great guardians or advisors on the path of the earth mysteries. I knew nothing about Anna the 3rd. And I guess very few of you know her too. But in then I went to Bergen, west coast of Norway, and gave a weekend seminar. And there is an architect who had been studying Chartres. And he said, yes, this is very important, because the whole north side of Chartres, which was the main seat of the Platonic teaching in 1200, in the 13th century, he said, on the north side there, the whole north side, which is the feminine side, have two big oak doors. And just between these two oak doors is a huge statue of Anna the Third. That was the grandmother of Jesus. So suddenly it made sense. And she oversees everybody who go in and out of Chartres as the feminine guardian. And they knew this in the 1200s. But today it is almost totally forgotten. I have a picture of Anna the Third. In German, she is called Selbsttritt, Anna Selbsttritt. And here you will see Jesus and Maria and Anna. And you see the huge size of Anna. She's almost double as Mary. And she told me she is then the guardian of the passage between the earth mysteries and Devakan. So this is just why I mention this is because this is all the time developing this path into the spiritual. But the most important, and what we are going to describe now, is how you start on this path. Are there any questions, by the way, so far? Andre, are there any questions?
So it looks like we can make a break and ask questions from Ari. Dear friends, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. If you navigate your cursor in the bottom of your screen, it's reactions, click on it, raise a hand, and ask your question, please.
I ask a question by speaking. Oh, I'm not coming across.
Oh, Tobias.
Yes, hello, Ira. Good evening. And Kate and Alice. Hi. Good evening, Ira. I hope this isn't irrelevant question, and please sideline it if it is, but it occurred to me that there's a connection between the path of the will that Steiner brings in True and False Paths in his Torquay lectures and the Northern Path. Does that seem, it is, yes, that's interesting.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that is why I also have concluded that England is part of the Nordic area.
Yes, yes.
So Finland, Sweden, Norway, and England and Scotland.
Right. Yes. Yes. Good. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, friend who is named administrative director. What's your name? I'm sorry.
Who, me? Tobias.
No,
Tobias.
I'm talking about next person with raised hand.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Yes, administrative director. So this is how you label.
Oh, this could be me.
Yes, what's your name, please?
This is Claire. I'm using my husband's computer.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just had a quick question for Arit.
And you are from?
I'm from San Diego.
Okay.
You know, whether this is the macrocosmic mysteries or the microcosmic mysteries.
Yes.
That's my question about this, the difference.
The Nordic path is the macrocosmic path into the mysteries, yes.
Good, thank you.
Yeah,
Hi.
Anne?
Hi, Ari. My question was, you mentioned, and pardon me, I had a little trouble getting on. You mentioned that
where are you sitting?
Well, I'm sitting in my living room, but it's an image of the Gertianum.
Oh.
Yes. So, yeah, I'm blessed to have the reflection there. So, very happy that you're here. And I'm curious with you shared, and I missed part of it, I apologize, but I wanted to ask you, what was the prompting that led you to choose the Earth Mysteries? And I don't recall the other choice that was presented to you, but if it's appropriate, if you'd like to share that, I would very much like to hear.
Well, when I started on this path, I went first through the elemental kingdoms. First the third realm, then the second realm, then the first realm. I will come back to that, a description of that. Then you come to the threshold to the spiritual world of sort of our cosmos, our universe. And there you meet Vidar, which is now the new archangel on that threshold. And then you receive the teaching and all the things you need to know personally to go further. And then you come into the spiritual world or the etheric world. And then you get a choice. At least I got a choice. Will you continue in the mysteries of the spiritual, or will you go through the mysteries of the earth? So I just chose that. So that was free will, free choice. I could have chosen differently, but that is what I did.
Okay, thank you very much. Susan is next. Susan.
Yes, hi, thank you, Ara. Can you say more about this Anna the Third, this great Anna, and how is that? What's the relationship then between Vidar and Anna, if there is a direct one?
No, yeah, no was not meant by not saying. It was meant that this is now not a close relation. Vidar is there, as I said, there are several advisors or guardians of thresholds. There is a threshold, a huge threshold between our illusionary world and the elemental world. And then there are smaller inside the elemental world. Then there is a quite big between the elemental world and the spiritual world, where Vidar meets you, and actually Balder too. And then you go into the spiritual world, where you can meet different entities. And that at a certain point, I chose to venture into this mysteries of the earth. And there, at the 7th layer of the earth, I met this huge, very important cosmic being, Anna. She is not a human being. She is actually a portal between the Devacanic world, and the what you might call the physical experience that we live in. And then you could she lets you into the Devacanic world and back into the material experience, which is of course also a spiritual experience. So and this is a very, very important passage or entity. And I was a little frustrated that I don't think everybody I've asked, Steiner has never mentioned her. So when I then realized that the great teachers of Chartres, the great teachers of Chartres, which Steiner highly praised, they were totally aware of Anna Selbstrit, or the third, as they made this huge statue on the northern wall between the two oak doors that everybody go in and out. And that is where I am at the present stage. Actually, that is who I communicate with now every day, is Anna. And I get more and more in Ave, yeah, in front of this entity. So I think it will be much more to come from this entity. If you choose the mysteries of the earth, which also is possible now, of course, they are also open because they are part of the elemental world. But first I want to describe, of course, how to start on this path. I was just mentioning some later experiences or meetings on this path. And I wouldn't have mentioned it if it hadn't been that this architect in Bergen told me actually exactly that she is like she presented herself, which I didn't know on beforehand. That is quite important to me, to get feedback from others that yes, actually Steiner said that in a private conversation. That is sort of fundament, the information I get. Except Anna, he didn't mention her. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So, more questions, friends? All right, thank you. And so, I think we can go back to presentation.
Yeah. So this was just an introduction. I was a little astonished that when I say that the Mikael path, as a path, not as a knowledge, do not function very well today. That not somebody asked about that, because that is the 19 lessons, of course, is almost a holy part of anthroposophy. So when I say that this doesn't really work as a path, I would have expected some questions about that. But as many of you know, Rudolf Steiner said the same. He said, if nobody can walk this path until autumn, that was in 24, it will be shut. He said so. And in the autumn, he said, autumn of 24, he said, nobody has been able to go here. They are not able, because it is so complicated, it is so lofty, it is so high. As Mikael at that time was mostly an archai, and an archai is much, much more lofty than an archangel, archangeloi. So then I will start to describe how to do this Nordic path of initiation. And I have not been talking about other things actually the last 2 years. That is described by Rudolf Steiner several places. It is, of course, described in many sources, in Parsifal, in Kalevala. But the most specific description is given by Rudolf Steiner in Helsinki in 1912, 3rd of April, which is the original Good Friday, when Christ ventured into the earth, into the elemental realms, to free or make it possible to free the spirits that had been trapped there. So I think this is highly significant, this date, 3rd of April, 1912, where he described how we can start to venture into the elemental realm. At that time, and that is important, 2/3 of the elemental kingdom was closed. So he said that you cannot go all the way, but you can start on the way. And to Johanna Grafin von Kaiserlink, he said that it is today dangerous to go through these earth mysteries. It is possible, but it is dangerous. But that was at that time. So today it is these messages. I'm not supposed to read them now. He described you have to concentrate on some part of nature. It can be a tree, it can be water, it can be the blue sky, it can be the white snow, it can be the green meadows. He seemed to have liked the white snow better. And I have now, very luckily, the last days been able to practice on the white snow. And the white snow is actually quite easy. You concentrate on the white snow, and Steiner described you have to concentrate and concentrate and concentrate. And at a certain time, all the rest of the world sort of fade away, and you, in a way, fade into this white snow. That is what I call fading. You fade into the white snow. And at a certain depth, it's like going into these 3D pictures where you go in and then suddenly you see a number or you see a shark or something. And when you have first seen this, then it's very easy to go back to it. So when you go into this white snow, you suddenly start to see a certain movement. A certain movement. Another place, Steiner described the movements of the Luciferic, of the Ahrimanic, and of the Asuric elemental beings. The Luciferic elemental beings, they move in this direction, up and down. The Ahrimanic move in left, right, and the Asuric in front, back. So these 3 movements you start to see. Usually you see only one movement first, because what you meet first are the more Luciferic elemental beings. And they move more like this, up, down, or in a circle, like a whirl. And then when you go further into this movement, you start to observe, or maybe I can say see. And a face or an entity. And at this point, I will have to make describe this with see, because it comes later. That is a teaching of Vidar. You see, you use your spiritual sight, which is called clairvoyance, at the first stage of this venturing into the elemental world. But then Vidar make you aware that this might be a trap. Because in the clairvoyance, it's very easy for the adversarial forces, especially the Ahrimanic forces, in connection with the Asuric forces or entities, to sneak in and give you a false clairvoyance. And that is also why Rudolf Steiner said that in the future, then Vidar will, together with Balder, give us the new clairvoyance. And then when I came to the threshold, Vidar was very strict about that this new clairvoyance is not clairvoyance, it is clairaudience. So when you then pass the threshold, you will be able to not see Christ in the etheric, but to experience or hear Christ in the etheric. When he told me this, I was quite upset because my whole life had been dependent on my clairvoyance. And I thought that Steiner had said, we have to see Christ in the etheric. So then I went into this Wikipedia, to see, haven't he said that? And then I realized before 1910, he said, see Christ in the etheric, but after he said more and more, experience or hear Christ in the etheric. So I'm quite convinced that if you see this very bright person, and there are many here in Europe who go around and tell how they have seen Christ with a very strong light and very like a person and so in the etheric. I think more and more that is a trick by the adversarial forces. It seems more and more that you can hear or experience Christ in the etheric and not see. But usually that is where we start. So he said you have to change, and that is the new clairvoyance. So it is sort of right, you have to change the clairvoyance into clairaudience. But it seems that you have to start with clairvoyance. So when you fade into this snow or tree or flower or actually whatever, fade, you really have to do this with all your power and concentration. You have to fade into it. Then you start to experience or see, actually, in the beginning, this movement. And that is what is described by many authors as nature beings, flower fairies, gnomes. Gnomes are usually the first you see, the elemental beings that belong to Earth. Then you have the elemental beings connected to the water, air, fire. So in this is when earlier in my life, I thought that was all. That was just the third realm of the elemental kingdom. But then you can go further. Then you come to the second realm, which was totally open in 1949. And then you come to another kind of beings, and they are much more Ahrimanic. These first have form, and they are quite attractive, even some of them. In Norwegian folklore, it is described how when you come into this third realm of the elemental kingdom, you can meet very attractive female elemental beings, which can lure you into the mountain or into the forest, and you are sort of lost. Henrik Ibsen described this in Peer Gynt, which many of you know a little about. As Steiner described Henrik Ibsen as a quite great initiate of all times. So, but this second realm this is the Ahrimanic realm, where the elemental beings are far from pretty. They are Ahrimanic, and when you have seen Steiner's drawing or painting of Ahrimanic elemental beings, they are quite ugly. Lucifer is pretty, Ahriman is ugly. And then you actually continue to fade. You fade deeper and deeper and deeper, and it can maybe take 45 minutes or an hour, or maybe 1.5 hours. And then you reach the first realm of the elemental kingdom, which is Asuric. Rudolf Steiner, he was reluctant to discuss the Asuric realm because that was very close at his time, and if you ventured there, you could get quite crazy or disturbed. And these beings in the first realm, they are terrible in how they look. They are really, really not only ugly, but they are terrible. And a few weeks ago, when I described this path through the elemental realm, it was one of the listeners who said that Rudolf Steiner said in 23 that in the future, we have to go through the mystery of evil to reach Christ. The mystery of evil, we have to go through the mystery of evil to reach Christ. And the mystery of evil is exactly these elemental realms where the Luciferic, Ahrimanic, and Asuric beings have their home. They have their home there. Before, they were more scattered all over the spiritual world, but as you know, in 1879, Michael won this fight against the spirits of darkness and threw them down on the earth, which is the elemental realm, of course, and sort of cleared the spiritual area for these spiritual darkness. So the spiritual world became sort of cleansed for these beings. And this was a continuous fight. First was the Luciferic beings thrown down, then the Ahrimanic, and then the Asuric. So when you have, and that last, the interesting thing is that as far long as you go through the Luciferic and the Ahrimanic, you know the direction where to go. But in the first realm where the Asuric is, you lose direction. You have to sort of be aware of to go straight ahead because this has to do with the vacuum. The Asuras live in vacuum. Like Steiner said that the Sorat of the sun live also in a vacuum inside the sun. So then you reach the threshold where you get help. And that is Vidar. And he presents himself, because I always ask when I meet these, these spiritual beings, I always ask, who are you? Who are you? And they say their name. So I asked, who are you? And he said, I'm Vidar. At that time, I had not much idea who Vidar was either. So the camp hill very close to where I live is called Vidaråsen. That means the little mountain of Vidar. So I went up there and asked the elders there, who is Vidar? Do you have any stuff about Vidar? And they said, yeah, read here and read there, and the cycle of the folk sows and the some books. And then I found that, yes, Steiner had definitely described Vidar as the new archangel, which will help us on the way into the spiritual. After Michael, then was no longer archangel, but an archai, which he started his ascent in 1879 and reached, according to Vidar, full office, you might say, in 1970s, which also then Vidar started as an angel in 1879 and became a full functioning archangel around 1970. So when you come there, then you have done the work. Then you have to go on individually. Like I described, you can choose this way, you can choose that way, you can go through the earth mysteries, the spiritual mysteries, you can enter the Devakan, you can actually travel the spiritual world. But the most important is the two things that you have to train is the first is to get over from our illusionary material world into the elemental world. And then past the elemental world, the three realms with the different inhabitants, which at the last part will frighten you. And then you reach the threshold, and then you meet Vidar, and then there is no more problems actually. So what I want you to train, and that is today so important for the elemental world, for the biodynamic agriculture, for medicine, for so many things, is that we enter into the elemental worlds, the realms of the elemental world, because only there we can make medicines that work well, remedies that work well. We can then work with the elemental beings and also bring Christ into the elemental beings and in a way save the elemental beings from their imprisonment in the elemental world. They are imprisoned there. So what I want you, that's why I have this had this idea of this training, which I have never done online like this before, every second month, because you need 2 months now to train. And you have to train every day. And I had a group down in Stuttgart, 8 persons, who have done that. And now most of them have reached Vidar and can communicate with him. So you see, let's say 6 out of 8 in half a year have succeeded to get to that stage. And I think that is very promising, because this is very, 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 very important that we do today. Any questions? Now I described the path. In the first section, I described a little about the knowledge, and now I describe more the path, or as you say in America, path. I speak English actually, path.
Yeah, dear friends, any questions, please raise your hand. Okay, Anthony, yeah, go ahead. Unmute yourself, please.
Here we go. Ari, good to see you again. Thank you. A question about the clairaudience. At one point, Steiner wrote about the fact that when someone comes close to the threshold, there's a possibility that they hear a voice, and that voice is that of Christian Rosenkreuz. and the voice will say, "It is not your time." And he points out that Christian Rosenkreuz has actually chosen that individual to follow him. Is that the same kind of clairvoyance that you're, or clairaudience that you're speaking about?
That is a very difficult question, because I have become more and more aware that this path is individual. So what Steiner met, what entities he met, or what he heard, that was for him. And he tried to make it general, but I don't think it is the same entity, also Christian Rosenkreuz, necessarily, but you have to change the clairvoyance to clairaudience for not to be fooled or tricked by the adversarial forces. So that is for actually everything.
The reason I brought that up is because I had that personal experience.
Yes.
That it was actually crossing the threshold, and I knew that I was crossing the threshold.
Yeah.
It was a very peaceful experience. I was being strangled.
Yeah.
And it was a very peaceful experience. And that voice was very clear. It certainly didn't come from my thinking or anywhere else. It just simply said, "It is not your time."
Yeah.
And at that point, I found the strength to loosen the grip. And, yeah.
Maybe that was then too early at that time for you. Maybe it is now time. We can try again. That is why we meet several of these entities. For example, Christian Rosenkreuz. We can meet even Rudolf Steiner, Peter Duno, Vidar, spiritual entities, Anna, Skytianos, I have actually met up there too. And they all help in their different ways. And you are told, okay, this is not here now, go rather that way. And I was asked, why did I choose the earth layers? Well, maybe I was actually led there. Maybe I didn't choose it totally freely. So, but the most important is that you have to be open to hearing more and more. The light is a danger.
One brief question, and I'll be finished, make room for others. But again, Steiner spoke of Vidar when Vidar was asked to go to Norway.
Yes.
He said that he had to be Christianized, I believe, in one of the lectures. And I wasn't quite sure about that, because I'd assumed that because he came from Echterstein, he would already Christianize at the time. So a little confusion for me there. Yeah.
Well, Steiner said very clearly that Vidar had been working with Christ for thousands of years. He had been the guardian angel of Buddha. He has been there. Vidar was there when Jesus was born. He is definitely Christian. He is the face. Sergei Prokofiev have put it all together in this book. He has a chapter on the Vidar mystery in his book, the cycle of the year as a path of initiation, where he describes all this path that Vidar had together with the Nathan soul for thousands of years. So, well, that's what I can say. And he is, as he said also, he is now the face of Christ towards human beings. And he also is working from the north. And Rudolf Steiner also said that today, or there will be, he said, when I say today, I mean today, the grail will be given out from the north. So it seems that the north today is very important for the spread of the etheric Christ.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Leon is next. Leon, unmute you.
Hi, Are. Good to see you.
You too.
My question, I've had the sense for a long time, as you call it, that the 19 lessons are not a path. And I say path too, because I'm born in England. And my question relates to the British Isles in this approach. I'm very inspired always by St. George, the patron saint of England, and many other places. And my name, Davies, comes from David, the patron saint of Wales. Have you come across any entities that relate to these or others in the British Isles?
Except that every time I'm in Great Britain, especially Ireland, there is a very, very close relation to the elemental world. But I haven't met any big spiritual entity that is related to the Great Britain, at least yet.
Thanks.
Hi, Ari, another question. You talked about the mysteries of evil in order to reach Christ, and it just makes me think of an experience I had, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. You had shared, I got to listen to your talk in Canada, I think it was, and you were describing the American elementals being big, hairy beasts like Bigfoot. And it's not often that I can see things on purpose, but as it turned out, there was a grace along with a lot of practice. And when I say see, I mean, there's a quality of hearing to it, or sentience. But I woke up in the middle of the night. I shared this with a couple of friends that might even be on the call, but I woke up in the middle of the night, was prompted to work with the elementals in the way you described. And it was very specific in how different it was as I worked on different places in my property and my mind. And then it became clear that I had to go outside and walk the property. It was different. It was amazing that I was seeing something, because it was different in different places where the public would intersect with my property. So there was a lot of preparation. And then the experience I wanted to ask about is, or get your thoughts on, was I was then inside my house, and I was just, I don't know what the steps were, but I had a sense of this very scary, terrible being. And it didn't look unlike a Bigfoot. And I don't say look, right? It had the quality of feeling. And I kept looking at it, and it was, you know, I've been doing this for a while, and I had enough equanimity, and I saw that the anger and the terror was literally fear. And as I kept looking at it, and I don't remember all of the steps, but it literally, as I kept present, I don't know if I was there for 15 minutes or an hour, but it somehow got changed. Like its fur wasn't agitated, and it wasn't fur that I could see, but I could sense it had a metallic. If I had to say I was seeing, I would say that it was invisible. And
what area of its body was the change mostly?
the fur and the countenance of it. It got shorter.
In the middle area, or upper or lower?
If there was a focus for change, I would say more central, but I would say overall there was a metallic, like a silvery quality. And the countenance changed. Well, I also was surprised that all of a sudden somehow either it got shorter or I got taller. Yeah. Right, because I was out of my body at this point. And then what was most surprising is its countenance was like a little boy eager to please. And it reminded me of how you described the Nordic elementals, where they're happy and they wear hats and clothes and they're well behaved. So I just wonder if this mysteries of evil is touched on by, for instance, this experience, and if this might help someone else too. It's like when we see something terrible, we stay present, we see what it is. And I wondered if you had some thoughts about that.
Well, what you describe is very well known to me. If you have like Judith van Halle say, a Christ consciousness, you are aware of the importance of Christ, and you have sort of opened yourself, your heart to Christ. When you then see an elemental, this elemental will get a part of your Christ consciousness, and that starts to change him or her, or this creature. And it always starts here in the middle. And you might say actually the radiation from his body, her body, its body, become more luminant, or it might be experienced as metallic. Metallic is glittering, glimmering. And also it becomes prettier and very interesting. And now you will laugh. It also gets more and more clothes on. Because that was a thing that I have been wondering about my whole life. That is, European elemental gnomes, they have clothes, while Americans, they are mostly naked, like Bigfoot. And I never really understood this. But when you sort of let this consciousness of Christ into an elemental being, he appears as getting clothes. So what you describe is, I recognize. So that's, to me, it was a quite real experience. And you did something with this elemental being. And as I told in America, when I was in America, the elemental beings in America, they want more to be known and in connection with anthroposophists, especially, I think, because or Christian people, they want that more than the elemental beings of Europe. They long more for this Christ force in America. That's how I got to America. This is a quite interesting story, because when I was allowed to fly in Europe because I had one vaccination that was enough here. And then I thought that was enough for America. So I had this home page with all my medical things. And when I was to fly to America, I was stopped and said, you are not allowed to America because you have only one vaccination. I was at the main airport in Norway. I had bought tickets for $3,000. I had all the agreements. I had one organizer in Alaska, one in Canada, one in America, which was Andrew Linnell. I was refused. You are not allowed to come. You have only one vaccination and you need one more at least 1 month before you travel. So I went home. I called all my 3 organizers and they were in half shock. And then I got a very calmness and I went to bed and I slept during the night. That was important. And when I opened my page the next day, it was written, I have 2 vaccinations. Somebody had changed my official medical page during the night. And then I took a screenshot and I could travel. They said, America, welcome, Mr. Thoresen. You have to, which I did not have. And when I came home back, it was changed back. So now, and I have proof of it. And that was done by the elemental beings. They needed this knowledge to come to America. How to get into the elemental world, how to bring Christ into the elemental world. And that is more important, it seems to me, in America than here in Europe. Yeah, a little comment on what you asked.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much.
If I may, just to follow up, do you, this mysteries of evil, do you consider that something that you've experienced and could describe and help describe for us, or is that a subject for another time?
Yeah, this mystery of evil I have witnessed actually my whole life. The first book I wrote was called Demons and Healing. I have, you see, when you go into the elemental world, which I did from I was 5 years old, then you meet demons, you meet actually evil. And you have to not be afraid of it. And you have to sort of say, okay, yeah, there's a demon. And that is the mystery of demon. The mystery of demon is, then the mystery of evil is that the evil is not evil. And that is the mystery. And when you go through the elemental realms and you found that one evil, the one you met, just wait till you come to the second realm. And just wait till you come to the first. They are really evil. You will be terrified if you have not gone through the third and then the second and then the first, because then you get used to it and you realize that they cannot actually hurt you.
Okay, dear friends, so if it no questions, so we can come back to main presentation.
Yeah. So I will now give you the first exercise, and then we will discuss how this exercise runs off. I will not give you the exercise of snow, because most of you probably have no snow now. Not everybody is as lucky as in Norway. I sit here with a warm sweater. Electricity is very expensive now. And chopping wood, I got my blue eye. So you will use a candle light. So if you all could take 2 minutes and get a candle and have there, or yes, it would be nice if you could do that. So I give you 2 minutes to do that. And Andre, are you going to light it?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Mhm.
We are supposed to light it. So do most now have a candlelight? Well, if not, quite soon. So what I will want you to do, I've done this now in quite many countries, this exercise. And some think that 10, 11 minutes is enough. In Stuttgart, they said that that was too little. They wanted 15, 16 minutes. They were more concentrated. It seems that Germans are able to concentrate a longer time. But I will think about, let's say we will try 12 minutes. So now I will ask you all to fade into and not think about anything else, not anything else. But you fade into the flame for 12 minutes. I tell you when 12 minutes is gone. And then when you see a movement and always, and that is what Steiner said too, always in the beginning, when you start to observe something in the spiritual, you ask yourself, is this real or is it not real? Is it just imagination or is it not? You will always have that question. So in the beginning, just believe in what you see, believe in what you experience. And then you see if it is real, then it will be starting of a path. If it's not, it will not be the start of a path. So it's better to be positive, be open to what happens, and do not question it too much. And if you see a slight movement, try to go into the movement. Okay, is this clear?
Yes, it is clear.
Thank you. And then we will talk again in 12 minutes. I will then say, break the silence. Okay, good luck. So that was 12 minutes. I will just comment while I've sat here. I will comment on why I ask you to choose a light. You see, when somebody is dissolving, when somebody is dissolving, when the stearine is dissolving into gas and flame, it is much easier to get into the elemental realm. And I remember one time Steiner was sitting with a friend and he took sugar, had a cup of coffee, and he took sugar in the coffee. And then he was sitting watching and watching and watching this sugar dissolving in the coffee and in totally quiet. And then this friend asked, what are you doing? And he said, when the sugar dissolves, I can go into all this elemental realm, this world of elemental beings that is related to the sugar. And that is a sort of a demonic part of the elemental realm. But always when things are in change, in dissolvement, in when sugar is dissolving in coffee, or the light, or snow is melting, ice is melting, it is easier to come into the elemental world. So that's why I ask you to do a light. So what happened? Did anybody experience something, anything? Word is free.
Yeah, Yaya has raised hand. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, thank you. What I experienced after maybe a few minutes was that there was a core of darkness inside the flame, and then it became very, very white. And then it darkened again, but only in the lower part of the middle of this thing, in the middle of the flame. And from there, several rays of light were, the way I felt it was, they were trying to reach me. There were very distinct ray of lights, 3, maybe 4, coming out and towards me, very straight. And they never actually reached me, but they were sort of attempting to reach me. And then the flame went almost completely down on the right-hand side, and it started changing shape, as if, again, I can only describe what I felt as well as what I saw, as if there was something trying to get free from that light that I was intensely looking at. As if there was something struggling to free itself from that flame. That is what I experienced.
Any movement?
Yes, and I've tried to follow it, and it almost became, again, something that was coming towards me.
Well, that is what I recognize, that when you come into the elemental world, the elemental beings, they want to be seen. They always come towards you. They always try to reach you. Even the Asuric beings, they try to reach you. that is why it can be a little frightening if you sort of see these faces and this they come towards you. It is very important because when you look at a light, you get these changes in the retina, of course, in the pigment of the sight, and it you must try to understand, see what is physiological and what is not physiological. So that is a problem with a light, that it can be a little, but so in the beginning, when you described, I thought this is maybe physiological, but at the end, it was much more spiritual. So yes.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, when you stare at something, of course, you get what Goethe called this second picture, the complementary color, and so on. So that is something else. That is not what you are watching. You are watching actually beings that are there, beings that move, and usually come towards you.
Yeah.
Good, good. There are three participants. Yes, thank you. Where do you live?
I'm in London.
Okay.
Yeah,
I met
thank
you
you.
once.
Are you done, Kaya?
Yeah. Yes, I'm done.
Oh, Marita, thank you. Marita is next. Marita? Can you guys? Yes. Okay.
Hey, it's Marita's here next to me, but I'm Michael Frosch. Nice to meet you again, Ara. I just wanted to share a little bit of my experience, just also to get your feedback. So at the beginning, I had some of the physiological effects, which I'm familiar with. Also the complementary color, which shaped up in a cone going upwards from the flame. But after most probably 5 minutes, what I started to experience was a kind of expanding in my perception or my awareness of space around the candle. And I started to experience a kind of movement. It was almost like laminar flow. You know how in rivers, the water, if you look at it for a while, you realize the layers are flowing. It isn't just all one mass. And quite a large area around the candle, I just experienced this kind of growing movement that just sort of flowed around the candle. That wasn't physical at all. It was more of a feeling, but I was very aware of the expansion of space, what seemed like the space around the candle. That kept on, that sort of moved, and then I maybe lost a little concentration, but as I went back into the light, that experience grew again.
Yes. And that is one thing you might find out if it's physiological or spiritual, because when you then go away and then you go, as you said, and then you go back, then there is immediately there again this movement. And that is what you will see on this path. This is the first little step. But there is a spiritual law, or what you will experience in the spiritual world. If you had come to point B, you can immediately, and you have used from A to B, let's say you have used a month, you can immediately go to B when you have been there. And then every time you start at B, and then you come to C, and then each time you go directly to C. So when this path I have used, let's say 2 years to get to Anna. Now I can go directly there. So this is not a physical. You cannot do that in the physical world, but that you can do in the spirit. And you can test it by that way.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Ruth.
Hello. I don't know if I did this correctly, but I have done these exercises before where I stare at a flame, but in this case, I didn't see in the flame. My heart opened and I started to sob, and a being came over my head, like looking through my eyes at the candle. And I know that experience from when the Kundalini awakens. It actually comes over your head like a kind of, you know, like the Dalai Lama's helmet. It comes over like a cobra. And I started to sob, and a whole group of beings came, and they were all very happy. Like, finally we get to see.
Oh. But
I didn't see anything in the flame except the flame moving and the smoke. So I wondered, you know, if this is something I've been through before, because I was born in England and I always saw elementals there. Then I moved to Texas. I never saw them there. I moved to Hawaii. I felt the energies there of the ancient Hawaiians. But now I live in California. I never feel elementals, although I have connected with Sasquatch. So I was wondering, you know, if this is something that is coming out from my childhood.
Yeah, you see, and that is what I have been observing my whole life. If you never have to do the same step twice.
Okay.
When you have seen this movement in the flame, that is the first. If you have done this thing before, faded into water or whatever, then you go directly to the elemental beings. I don't have to do that anymore. You can do it for a second, but then you are, as you said, you are then in the elemental world, and then you are in communication with these beings. And of course, they are in everywhere. They are in California or whatever, but you haven't sort of opened that door in this way, which is very unique to the so-called Nordic path of initiation.
Okay, thank you.
So you, it was very clear you had done this before, as you said, and now you will start a little ahead of the others.
Okay, thank you.
But there you have to continue. You have now to differ. You can fade into a light. You can fade into the sugar that is dissolving in coffee, like Steiner did. You can fade into the water or the trees or whatever.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Others?
Nancy.
Nancy Macmillan.
Mhm.
Macmillan, yeah.
Unmute your computer, please, Nancy. We cannot hear you.
Hello, Nancy from Canada.
Hi.
In entering into the light, there was a point where I just wanted to close my eyes and merge with it from within, and allowing that to happen felt a presence within me start expanding, and trying to feel into what that presence was being. It felt like a big animal, and as that grew,
let me stop you a little moment there.
Okay.
Because I expected you to say that. You see, then you mixed in the microcosmic way. One important thing with the macrocosmic way is that you have your eyes open. If you shut your eyes, you will mix more or less of the microscopic or the inner way, not the outer, not the microcosmic. And that is often you can get into animal shape. So that is not what you're going to do. Okay. This is the Nordic way. You went suddenly into the Eastern way.
Mm.
So I should have said that, and there are always somebody who shut their eyes in such, and I try to say, don't do it, and they say, yeah, well, I do that, and I have trained this, and I will say, okay, but it never goes very well.
Okay.
But I was just to say it. Do you want to say something more?
Well, that's really helpful. I would say that just to complete the movement there was the bear that was really kind of rough. But after being with it for a while, it felt like it did transform into more of a human form. But then the time was up, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I repeat again, that's why I said, look into the flame, look into the dissolving, the melting snow, look into the melting sugar, and so on. You always look, that's why you go through the clairvoyance. And when you start to get then very settled in this clairvoyance, then you have to allow the clairaudience.
Okay.
But that is for a later stage. That is a problem we will discuss in 2 years, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So, dear friends, more reflections? Okay, Anthony? Huh? Yeah, unmute your computer, please.
Yes, I need to say tell you my experience, Ari, because I'm not sure what it was. I had my candle very close to me, so perhaps somewhat physiological as well. And so I started by studying the flame itself and the beauty of the blue color at the base of the flame. And the wick had a little darkness around it, and then the actual light was above that. The upper part was the bright part, the part that would send the light. And then at some point, and that was a steady gaze for a few minutes. And at some point, the candlestick separated into two, one on either side, and it felt much more comfortable at that point for my view. And I saw between the two candlesticks a kind of a darkened globe, but it wasn't a black globe, like darkened. And out of that, we're trying to manifest some visuals, some faces, etc., which never fully form, but would come and go. And so I stayed with it until the very end, until the 12 minutes. But the globe would fade out a little bit and then come forward again. And the candlesticks were there perfectly as candlesticks on either side of it. So that's not sure what to make of it.
I think most of that was physiological. Try next time with maybe something else. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, so if no questions or no observations, so we can continue, Ari.
Yeah. Well, this is actually what I wanted to bring. That is to push you into training this every day. You have to do it, let's say, once a day at least, maybe twice a day, and it takes only 12 minutes, so it shouldn't be that difficult. You can do it when you sit on the toilet or wherever. And then you will see every time you do it, you get a little further in. And then after 2 months doing it once or twice a day, you will be able to go directly to that point where you have come. And then we will discuss, because there is actually not so much to discuss until you have trained this now for 2 months. Yeah. And it's important that you do this. It is very important. That is, in my opinion, is that the only way to today enter the spiritual world and also go into the elemental world. I haven't talked about that, but Andrew could have talked much about that. But to master the 3 occultisms, I think that you have to go into the elemental world to master the 3 occultisms. You cannot do it from this world. And according to Steiner, need of the times, that is of crucial importance that we do. So we have to do this, my dear friends. We have to do it. You cannot just not. But that's why you are here, I guess. Yes.
Okay, Leon was first, I believe. Yeah, go ahead.
What Anne shared prompted a question from me. And this is about being Christ-centered as you enter these realms. It's pretty clear to me that you and Anne are Christ-centered. But what about someone who isn't? For instance, I shared a car, a co-driver, from Nova Scotia, moving to California with a girl who had just graduated from university there. And she was quite atheistic and materialistic, and we had lots of conversations on the trip, almost arguments, but good-natured. And when we arrived in California, she had to go to a motel rather than her home, I think because they had guests or something like that. But then she called me the next day, and she described this experience where she had gone to bed, and after, or in that state between sleeping and waking, she saw a being at the foot of the bed that proceeded to lift the foot of the bed up. And then she remembered that I had recommended in instances like this that she pray the Lord's Prayer, which she did. And this being put the bed down and disappeared.
Hmm.
So I wondered what you had to say about the importance of prayer in helping people who are not practiced.
Yes. It is the only force that can sort of wield the elemental world is the Christ force. And the few times that I have been a little scared, I have done either the cross or the Mikael sign. And then it is no danger. So I agree with you. There is a certain importance to be aware at least, that we are to bring our obligation, our future obligation, and maybe present is to bring Christ into the elemental world. That is, we have to have a consciousness about that. I totally agree. But even in my younger days, when I was 10, 15, I was not a Christian. I actually defined myself as an atheist. It's quite surrealistic. I went into the elemental world. I talked with elemental beings, and I was an atheist. But I was not aware of Christ. That came later. So you can go there without a Christ consciousness. You can do that, but I think it is much better to have a Christ consciousness. And at the end, that is of crucial importance, because that is what we are going to bring into the elemental beings.
I would just say that I was raised in a home that wasn't very necessarily religious, but I would regard my parents as being Christ-centered, in the same way that, you know, Steiner talks about the philosophy of freedom being Pauline and Christian. He never mentions the word in the book.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
Yeah, you can when you do this fading technique, you can have a picture of Christ or a saint or something besides. So you sort of have I have this when I fade. So to remind you that this is a greater strength or force. Yeah.
Yeah, Yaya is next. Yeah, unmute your machine, please.
I just wanted to make a comment because you are say that it is important that we do something now. And I've been feeling a sense of urgency for at least the last couple of years that we must actually start doing things, because otherwise we are actually wasting valuable time.
Yes.
And the other thing is that this exercise with the candle today revealed another aspect to me, which is something that also you mentioned, that we have to find our own individual path. And the observation of the flame is a good means for me to allow what is ahead of me to come towards me so that I know where to go. I have this feeling that by merging into the light of the candle, something will open at an individual level. And it's particularly important to me that it is at an individual level, because we are at that stage of evolution when, unless we recognize our individuality and follow our path, then again, we're wasting resources and time and talents. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I must underline what you say, that is the path into the spiritual world is not the same. It is much more individual than we sort of get the impression from the 19 lessons, where it is sort of the guardians say the same to everyone. He does not do that, actually. He do not do that.
Yeah.
It's quite different.
Yeah.
Because we are on very different stages. We have different number of lives behind us. We have done different things. Maybe we have an initiation here and there and so on. It will be very different. That is very
Yeah.
important to be aware of.
Yeah, at times I almost felt I was a heretic because because I had a feeling that my path was not the same as the one that everyone seemed to almost religiously follow.
Yes.
I felt that I really needed to find my own path.
Yes.
And what you're offering us is precisely that. And I'm incredibly grateful to you.
I will be grateful if you do this path.
I
All of you.
shall.
There are 69 here now, and I think if everybody do that now in 2 months, once or twice a day, it will also work as a group. We will help each other in ways that we do not oversee at this moment.
Thank you. Yeah. So Grant, hello. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, hello. Sorry, some of us in Canada are also blessed with
I remember
snow.
you.
Yes, thank you very much for remembering me. Some of us in Canada are blessed with snow as well. Can you say something briefly about fading into snow for those of us that have it at hand?
Yeah, choose a day with where it is slightly melting. You see, that is the importance actually by fading into something that is when it dissolves. We had it was every year we have all the anthroposophic doctors in Norway, Denmark, Finland, Sweden. They meet and have exercises. One year we were heating up all the 7 metals. And when gold and silver and copper and so on was heated up, then the elemental beings actually appeared. They came, they showed themselves. Those who were less clairvoyant, they needed higher temperature. Those who were more, they needed only actually a match under the iron rod. And this, as I told you, I was thinking about this story about Steiner, who looked at the sugar in the coffee dissolving, and he saw whole worlds, events in that coffee. So try to do that. The light is dissolving when the snow is melting. It has been snowing, and then you have 1+ degree the day after. That is perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Marita.
Hello again. Yeah, it's Michael here.
Hi, Michael. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's Marita's screen, and Marita's here, and also Linda Frosch is here, and we're in Vancouver, by the way, just so that people.
Yeah, welcome.
can locate.
Welcome.
There are 2 things. One are I just wanted to share my impression from one of the lectures you gave during August, which I think we've watched via video. So thank you, whoever videoed those. It was very helpful. Was when you spoke about the story of the hobbits, and that we are like hobbits, and we need someone to like Gandalf to sort of tempt us or kick us out of the door to get us into the wide world. And that as I remember, you were giving that as an analogy for making this step to actually begin to move into the elemental world. So that really stuck with me, and I just wanted to share that, both to acknowledge that story, which I thought was a really nice analogy, but also in relationship to what you were just talking about, which is the importance of doing this work at this point in time. Yeah. And that brings me on to the main question, which is, I would really appreciate it if you could say something about, so the elementals are you know, they are in the elemental world, so they're aware of they have an awareness. What is it that is hindering them from actually relating to the Christ directly? What is it that requires human beings to be able to actually Christianize and bring Christ to the elementals? I hope I could ask that question.
It was quite clear. And you might say, why is Christ necessary? Why is human being created? Why is God there? There are questions that are not so easy to say why. But all through history, initiates have seen. There was initiated writer in the 1800s here in Norway who said that the whole nature is sighing or just waiting for human beings to bring Christ into it. And when I talked with the hidden people on Iceland, they said, we are only waiting for you to accept Christ so we can be free. The only liberating force there is Christ. All other forces are binding. We are bound in this cosmos, and we need Christ to dissolve it and be free. If we don't do that, like Steiner also said, then we are bound here for some million years in the eighth sphere. So why we cannot do it without Christ, I cannot answer. But everybody say it is so, and I say it is so, and Jesus himself say nobody gets to the Father unless through me. You have to go through him to get into the spiritual. Really, yes. I cannot answer.
Yes, that I'm aware of and learning to appreciate more deeply as my years go on. What I was the question underneath that is, why is it that the elementals are not able to make a direct relationship with Christ?
They cannot see him. They cannot find him.
They cannot find him. Okay, so
okay, this is the answer. Yeah, dear friends, Ari, how we feel about time? Because we working already 2 hours and 3 minutes, and we have 4 people with raised hand. So can we continue, or we can do blitz?
We take some questions.
We take. Okay, thank you so much. So Mary, hi, you are next. Mary, unmute your machine, please. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Hi. Hello, Ari. I'm in Chicago. My question is, as we do this exercise, and if we have an experience that is definitely beyond, is taking us deeper, we have an experience of elementals or beings or such, do you recommend that we continue to hone this exercise and stop at the 12 minutes? Or do you, is it advisable maybe to continue to follow that? Or is it better to switch to a different substance rather than a flame, maybe the snow or a flower or, you know, something else? How do we?
I think you should vary as much as possible. Try everything.
Okay.
And the technique is much of the same, but you can do the especially the trees, animals, horses, very easy. Yeah, I think you should vary, but not unless, well, if you are, you should in the beginning choose something that is dissolving or melting. Melting sugar, melting ice cube, for example, in water. Find something that is dissolving. Yeah.
And then do we just stop at the 12 minutes or should we continue to follow if it appears to?
That is according to your endurance.
Okay.
You can stay for 2 hours if you want.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. So I'm answering to Judith. So Judith, to raise hand, so you put your arrow in the end of your screen and click on reaction and select raise a hand. Okay, thank you, Mary, and Ross, welcome.
Hi, Ari, thank you. I meditate every day, and my question is, during the meditation, do you keep your eyes closed or do you keep your eyes open?
When I fade, I keep my eyes open.
Okay. What about the rest of the
otherwise
meditation?
you mix in the microcosmic way.
Right, but when you meditate, when you don't try to merge into the thing, when you meditate on let's say on Our Father or something, do you close your eyes then when you try to go deep, or do you keep them open so that you go into the same direction?
The last years I only done the macrocosmic.
Okay, fair enough.
So
thank you very much. So next friend named Galaxy 830. So yes,
that's
yes.
me. My
Would
name
you
is
please
Freya.
introduce yourself? What's your name?
Hi, my name is Freya, and I live in Israel.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not. I'm originally from Canada and lived in the UK for years.
Okay, what is your question?
My question is, okay, how do you separate your experience of Christ's love from an experience of struggling with religion? Because I feel like I can connect with Christ's love, but I have a lot of issues with organized religion.
It has nothing to do with organized religion. It has only
Okay.
to do with this entity called the Christ. Yeah.
Okay.
Forget.
So that's fine.
Forget Catholicism or Protestantism or whatever.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Deborah Rogers. Deborah. Okay.
I'm just unmuting and so forth. I have a couple of questions, and if we just have time for one, I'll ask one first. But we're talking here, I know about fading and with things of nature, but I'm also curious, are elemental beings also imprisoned in man-made things? Because I feel like elementals make up everything and they all need to be released from their, okay, wonderful, thank you. And then the other question I had, when you were talking about the changing clairvoyance to clairaudience, you said one thing, and I think I got this right. You said the light is danger, but I didn't hear you say anything more about that.
Can be dangerous. Again, when I got this message from Vidar, I asked Markku, my friend who was foreman in the Finnish Anthroposophic Society, and he said that Valentin Tomberg have a whole treatise on this, how we must get away from clairvoyance to clairaudience, because the adversarial forces will more and more take over the clairvoyance.
Okay, but when you said the light is danger,
Yeah, that means
What
the
were your-
clairvoyance has to do with light. You see things. You cannot
Okay.
see things without light.
Okay,
That is what I
great.
meant.
Thank you for explaining that.
Thank you. So, okay, hi, Judith, finally you're raising your hand, so go ahead. Unmute your machine, please.
Yeah, I have a question about how to fit it all together. I've historically had a lot of clairaudience experiences, completely disconnected from any kind of discipline whatsoever. I'm a chemist. I work in a lab. A copper wire would tell me that it needed to be in my reaction vessel, and I would put it in there, and then the reaction would work, whereas it hadn't worked before. I have a lot of direct instruction. I also tend to fade into things like my eggs being cooked in the morning. I'll kind of fade into the coagulation of the eggs, and oil being warmed and fade into that. But I feel like I don't have how to put the Christ in that. I'm not sure quite what is.
That is not. Yeah, that is not the first problem. The first problem is to fade into something and then observe a movement. That is the first step.
I do that.
Yeah. And from that, you fade into the movement, and then you see the elemental being. And then, if you go that far, then you can fade into the elemental being, and then it comes the question of bringing Christ in or not.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, dear friends, we are working 2 hours and 30 minutes, and I'm wondering if we can already round our session. And as I understand, so we agreed to meet online in 2 months.
Yes.
Right. So, and I hope it will be maybe Sunday or Saturday, so in order to bring more people for your workshop.
We can do that, yes.
Are you willing to?
Right now, or we do that later?
It's up to you. If you can quickly give us a date, which will be like in 2 months, it will be suitable for you. So at least all people will hear it. So, and they will stay tuned.
End of January. End of January. Let me see. What about Saturday, the 28th of January at the same time?
January, Saturday, okay, January
28th, which is a Saturday.
I think it works great. So let's pencil it in our calendars. So, and we will talk with you more about details. So dear friends, did you hear? So we put in the calendar January 28th at the same time. So it's this time because of time difference between Norway and United States. So yeah, it will be 11 p.m.
I can do a little earlier. I can do 1 hour earlier if that's better.
Well, I mean, yes, it's 10 o'clock. So we will talk about it. So I think 11 o'clock is perfect to me. So it's kind of late morning. Everybody will be going to be available. Ari, just one more, not a question. So I know you just finished your book yesterday, and can you tell us just, maybe a little bit about it?
What book?
I think you told yesterday you finished another book.
Yes, that is in German. So, and that is what I actually told in the beginning, especially the meeting of Anna the Third and the Earth Mysterious Path. And that will come in English in August next year, I think, or September. Because Temple Lodge, they say to me that I write too much, so they cannot economically publish more than one book a year. So they're already doing it too much with me. So
You're writing too much, yeah. Okay, yes, okay. Thank you so much. So dear friends, please feel free, unmute your computers and greet and say thank you to
Thank you, Ari.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated.
Thank you,
Ari.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you. Bye,
Much love. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari. Wonderful. Thank you.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you for
Thank you very much. Very grateful.
Bye.
see you in
Thank
2
you.
months.
Thank you, one and all. Thank you, Ari.
And thank you, Andre.
well, thank you.
Thank you, Andre, also.
Thanks, Andre.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Andre.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much, Andre.
Thank you for joining. Stay with us. It will be ongoing workshop with Ari.
Good.
Mhm.
Look forward to the next one.
Yes. Take care, dear friends.
Thank you again.
Bye.